In 2011, I went to visit a school district in North Carolina, Mooresville graded school district, which had implemented their digital initiative 3 years earlier. And I went there to look at it because I'd heard that they were actually having great success in increasing graduation rate, decreasing the dropout rate, improving test scores, improving attendance, and also they had seen misbehavior among their students plummet. And I wanted to find out what they'd done and how it was working. And I actually went there with a bit of a skeptical bone in my body because I wasn't sure that anything could do what it was purported to have done. And I wanted to be sure I wasn't just looking at toys in the classroom. When I got there, what I found was engagement of students in a way that I had never seen universally in any school. I saw high school classrooms that looked like college classrooms in that all students were focused on learning. They were interacting, they were collaborating on their projects, they were creating projects and presenting projects. And of course, that's what we need people to do in the modern work world, to work together, to create together, to present together, to solve problems together. And when I saw that and then talked to the students and learned how enthusiastic they were and talked to the teachers and learned how enthusiastic they were, it was clear to me when I saw what had happened in Mooresville that we needed to do the same thing here. They had gone from a middle-of-the-road school district in North Carolina to one of the top as far as their student achievement. So I came back and I told my board what I had seen, and they said, well, we'll give you the authority to find the money to implement it at one school. And we chose Baldwin County High School. Baldwin County High School had the second highest level of poverty among its students. And I also felt like if we were going to populate the mega site, we needed to have an initiative in that end of the county that was really appealing to people who were looking for a good education for their children. So we implemented it at Baldwin County High School in the spring or the fall of 2011. By the end of the first semester, I reported the results at Baldwin County High School, the statistics on what had happened. We saw a plummet of the dropout rate by almost 2/3 at that time. We saw a plummet of misbehavior in the school. We saw accelerated success on achievement exams. We saw better attendance. Overall, all the indicators said to us, this is really good. And when I reported that to the board, they said if it's that good for Baldwin County High School students, every student in all of our high schools across this county deserve to have that tool. And they said, we need to find a way to implement this. So in the fall of 2012, we rolled it out to all 7 high schools. We also had the benefit of Gulf Shores City Council providing almost $1 million to the Gulf Shores schools so that they could have grades 4 through 12, the digital renaissance, which was a phenomenal gift to our schools. In January, there was a foundation locally that provided the money so that Orange Beach Elementary could actually implement digital renaissance too. So the Gulf Shore schools have had it for a year. The high schools across the county have had it for a year. And as we looked at what we could do to improve education for children all the way through the middle schools, the board said, if we can find the money, then what we need to do is provide the same opportunity to our middle schools. So this past fall, 2 months ago, we rolled out Digital Renaissance to all 10 of our middle schools. So all of our students in grades 7 and 8 had a computer. And then most recently, in consideration of more opportunities for children, the board decided that if we could find the way to do it, we would roll it out K through 6 in January. So in January, all students grades 3 through 6 will receive a Mac Air computer, and all students kindergarten through 2 will receive a Mac iPad. And I'm really excited about that because if you have an opportunity to visit Gulf Shores Elementary School, you will see that the elementary kids are probably as adept at using a computer as the high school students. They are just magicians. And I was just at a middle school in a classroom talking to a young man who showed me how he was building his own background on his screen, how he was doing videos, and how he was creating things that he's never had the opportunity to do before. And I asked him, which class do you most like because of your access? He said, my history class, because I can find things that nobody has in a library anyplace. And so it's in my perspective, it's a very successful initiative. Now, we aren't fully implemented yet. We still have some teachers who deservedly are being challenged by this, and they've not been raised with the technology. They've not been taught how to use the technology. But we created a training program called the Digital Renaissance Leadership Academy, and today we're training 300 of our teachers from across the county. We'll have a new cohort in January of 300 more teachers, and as they begin to do one step at a time, and that's what I've asked them to do, to incrementally learn how to use the computers, we're going to see a major change in the instruction in our classrooms, and therefore we're going to see a major change in the learning in our classrooms. Well, the hard numbers aren't as available at this point to me. We've got, just the end of the year recently. There have been improvements in some areas, and in some areas there have not been improvements, but I don't have the hard numbers to give to you right now. I would talk about Baldwin County High School. And Baldwin County High School's numbers have continued to be better than they were when we started this. The most impressive number to me is what we're expending per day per child. We're spending $1.69 per student. We spend over $8,000 per year per student, and the total cost of the Digital Renaissance is about $300 per student. If we look at the ability of other school districts in Alabama to do what we've been able to do, we are, in the most recent report from the State Department, we were 99th in our annual expenditure per pupil. That means there are 98 other school districts in Alabama, potentially, that could do the same thing we're doing with the monies they have. Any help we can get from the legislature in implementing this is going to be greatly used all across the state, because it's going to prepare our kids to go out into a world where they're going to have the skills that I mentioned before, the collaborative skills, the creative skills. There is a project called Project Red that studied one-to-one initiatives across the country, and where this is implemented, the one-to-one initiative is implemented, the estimate is that they're saving $448 per student per year. And we are spending about $300 per student per year. So conceivably, we're saving $148 per student. Now, obviously, that doesn't happen immediately. First of all, we're not buying textbooks right now. We're not buying as much paper. We're not using copiers as much as we were. We're not doing as much remediation as we were, because we have students that are being more successful. At Baldwin County High School, one of the things that they've said is that the greatest impact of it is the leveling effect that it has for students from poverty, who suddenly feel like they're important, who suddenly feel like they have the same tools as the kids that come from more advantaged homes. And so you see children who previously had not been engaged in their education rising to that and doing things that they had not done before. I'll give you an example. I visited a classroom last year at Baldwin County High School, and walked in, and I said to the students, I said, so tell me how this is impacting you. And the teacher says, well, I'll give you an example. And he talked to a boy in the back of the classroom. He said, show Dr. Lee what you're working on. And he was working on a project on biomes. And I watched and I looked at it and I said, that's great. That's really great. And as we walked out with the principal turned to me and he said, that boy was the #1 student that all teachers would have selected to not have come back to school this year. And look at what he's doing now. I mean, it's that kind of transformation that's the most impressive thing to me. And when I talk to the kids, that's what impresses me most. And the story that I always tell about the Baldwin County High School experience is when I ask the kids in my student advisory, how has it changed your education? 2 stories. One, a boy said, I no longer have to wait to learn. I said, what do you mean by that? He said, you know how it is. You go home, you do the assignment, you come back, not everybody's done the assignment, so the teacher doesn't go on, they wait to get everybody else caught up, and in the meantime, I sit there and I don't have anything to do. He said, I don't have to wait to learn anymore. I come in, if she's working with other students, I start my project. I work at my own pace. I can work when I'm at home, I can work when I'm here. And then the girl who said to me, she said, we've been watching the presidential debates the last 2 weeks. She said, our textbook is 10 years old. She said, we couldn't have watched the debates without our computers. And the other piece of it is that the issues that we have today in politics are not even in our textbooks. It's changed that much in 10 years. And I mean, that's very telling. And you and I both know that if you buy some sort of a technical manual, it's likely going to be out of date very quickly. Right. And so when we buy a science book and science continues to advance, it's never reported until 10 years later when we buy another science textbook. Yeah. But with the computer, they have access to what's happening every day. Desk. When we originally conceived of the idea of a help desk manned by students, the idea was that those students would get trained in how to fix a computer. Those help desks have morphed into a service desk because really what they deal with most often is somebody who can't get on the internet, somebody who doesn't know how to get into a program. It's a customer service more than it is a fixed desk. And we're doing almost no maintenance and repair of computers right now. But the kids are learning how to maintain and repair because that's a class. They get a credit for that class. But we're doing very little of that. Theft has been minimal. I'm trying to remember if there's been more than a few, maybe a half a dozen computers. Well, I take that back. At Daphne High School, we had several stolen last year by a student. And we solved that issue, solved that problem, and got computers back. We had one stolen at Baldwin County High School the first year, and I can't remember theft of any others that I've had reported to me. Students, they occasionally will drop one, and we'll get a broken screen. But we've got a program set up that, the students, they pay $65 to use a computer for the year, and then if they break a screen, which is going to be a fairly expensive repair, they have to pay another $100 to get it fixed, but we've had minimal problems with them. Well, we've got issues. I mean, we have children who access sites they shouldn't access. But those kids, if they aren't doing it on our computers, are doing it in the household at night at some other student's home. So that's out there, and what we need to do is do a better job of educating parents for their needs. And their needs are, they need to look at their child's computer every day, they need to look at the history, and if the history is gone, then they need to take the computer away. I mean, it's just a matter of training kids that that's not something that they can do. But issues, they're minimal. After 40 plus years in education, I've not seen anything that has changed learning the way the digital renaissance is changing learning for our students. If we look at the world of work that our children are going into, they need to be able to use technology to do every job that's out there. 10 years ago, more than that, 15 years ago when I was in Wyoming, I had a CEO of a major oil refinery talk to me, and he said, every one of my employees uses a computer every day. I want to buy computers and put them in your classroom so the kids that graduate from your schools will be able to use our computers. That has changed so much. You cannot live in the work world today if you can't use a computer and you can't access information. And so that's my goal, and that should be the goal of every school district, to have children as well prepared in the use of technology and therefore the broadening of their access to the world as we can do.